And the reality is I think it'd be better to work it in right now. So the next segment we've got, we're calling, so we got Spice Daddy and we've got Deer Daddy. As the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth after, and he kills deer. But
all of them.
He also rides them around in
sees.
his truck.
Yeah. That's right. He also had a baby deer. That was a story.
Full-blown deer.
It started as a baby.
Antlers.
It was a baby to begin
one
with.
point.
Yes, and then you nursed it to health.
When I acquired
correctly.
it had antlers. It was hit by a car. It ground its antlers off, ripped a huge chunk of meat out of its butt, and I kept it in a pen and doctored it and babied it until it regrew its antlers, and then we turned it loose, and it still hangs out at our property today.
All right, so here we go. I'll do a clean intro, Creighton. You ready for this?
Ready.
All right, these are random questions from the audience or me. Title of the segment, Dear Daddy, what is the best way to cook 3 different types of meat?
I love that.
Steak, ribs, and salmon. So with those 3 different meats, from your expert culinary opinion, if I gave you a 16-ounce ribeye, a chunk of salmon, or a rack of ribs, what would be the best strategy to cook each of those 3 types of meat?
Okay.
Dear Daddy.
Starting with the ribeye, I would do a reverse sear. So I have a Rectex smoker, shameless plug, and I would load that up with like a very mild wood pellet, like alder. A lot of people don't like mesquites and more of the harsher woods. I've actually gotten compliments at church from some of the older ladies that claim they didn't like barbecue because the smoke was too
pronounced,
abrasive.
Okay.
And I use alder because it kind of meets every palate. So if you're cooking for guests or cooking for people you're not familiar with their palate, I would smoke it low and slow, 140 degrees for about 40 minutes, depending on the thickness of the steak. Reach an internal temperature of 120, pull it off the smoker, sear it hard over charcoal, let it rest 10 to 15 minutes and serve. Salt and pepper, baby garlic powder. Anything else is overhandling.
I don't believe you.
Ribs, I would also smoke low and slow. Maximum temperature that I smoke my ribs at is 180 degrees. I do a saltwater.
Now, why is that?
Because when the meat reaches 150 degrees surface temperature, it locks up and stops absorbing smoke. So if you're smoking at 225, 250, you're going to lock that meat up earlier, so you won't get as deep a smoke penetration. So when you cut into it and you get that pink smoke ring, at a higher temperature, it's going to be thinner, which is less flavor. At a lower temperature, you're going to get a deeper smoke ring, so more flavor, more tender. When you lock the meat up, it tends to become more tough on the surface. Might have a really tender interior, but it'll have a tougher surface.
So, like, if you were to do it with like baking your ribs, you would do a lower temperature, longer period,
As low as the oven would go.
for a longer period. Even though you're not trying to get smoke in there, it's
Still
just the
your
meat,
tenderness.
the meat locking up.
Yeah, your tenderness is going to be better. Your juice is going to be better. Penetration of flavor is going to be better. It's like if you bring that meat up to temperature too fast. That's why I do a reverse sear on my steaks versus searing and then a slow roast, because once you lock that surface up, you stop absorbing flavor. So bringing that meat up to 125 degrees or 130 degrees very slowly, you're absorbing that salt, that pepper, that garlic powder. So same with the ribs, you bring them up very, very slow, and then once they hit an internal temperature of 150, you can do a hard sear on them, create a little bit of a bark. I like to use mustard as my binder with a dry rub. That forms a really nice bark. And then once you've locked in at 150 degrees, that's when I baste on my barbecue sauce, wrap them in tin foil, put them back in the smoker at 225. You don't want to mess around with ribs because it's pork. So I like to.
You got to cook it thoroughly.
Yeah, I like to see like a 205, 215 temp on the ribs. The biggest thing that drives me nuts about ribs, especially in a commercial setting, is when I go and order ribs and they don't remove that inner membrane from the ribs. That membrane stops flavor from penetrating, so you end up with a really off-putting odor from that membrane. Almost smells like diarrhea.
So if you buy some ribs from the store, most of the time they've been taken off, right?
No, never. And I don't know why. Like,
Okay.
Because they're selling it to you by the pound. That's
And so
why.
this is the thin layer underneath.
Yes.
So what do you use to remove that? Like how do you do that? What's the easiest
So
way?
I have a meat hook because I have a full-blown butcher shop. But if you don't have a meat hook, you can use the tip of a steak knife. Just get it started to
And
where
just
you can
kinda
get a
pull it
finger
off.
under it. And you just want to work your finger around because it's very, very fragile. So if you just get aggressive and try to yank it off, it'll break. You'll get frustrated. So just work a finger under it and slowly remove that membrane. Get it completely off the ribs. Season your ribs front and back. Binder front and back. So I like mustard as a binder. You can use garlic aioli as a binder. The binder is kind of neutral. It just holds your dry rub on. And then the dry rub's your seasoning.
You ever
Gotcha.
done a hot sauce binder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done a lot of hot sauce binders. I am a huge fan of hot sauces myself. But that's how I do the ribs. That's how I do the steak.
Now salmon,
Salmon.
third meat. Because right now your steak and ribs, similar approach. I mean, you're smoking.
Yeah.
Smoker.
Yeah, salmon. I'm a huge smoker. I like smoking meats. That's as God,
You're a joker?
That's as God had intended it. We started cooking meat in the temple, and it talks about the fragrance. Of
Oh,
the
I see. You
juices
made
and-
this biblical.
Yeah. So God is a barbecue guy. I'm a man after God's own heart.
There you go. Absolutely.
So
That's what the nature of the first question here,
Yeah.
dear daddy.
So the salmon, the biggest thing with salmon, I live in a house full of women that hate seafood. I don't know why God cursed me with this, but it's been a welcome challenge and I accept it. So I have to try and make them like seafood. And
So you classify salmon as a seafood?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my wife particularly
Freshwater salmon.
they're very tiny.
Alaskan salmon, I guess is.
Those are seafood. They
Okay,
come,
all
they
right.
come from the ocean, they spawn in the river.
Okay.
So they only come into fresh water.
It's good to
lay
know.
their eggs.
Classified as.
So there are freshwater
Sea-
salmon. I fished for them in Montana. They're very little. Like you're going to be like a maximum 12 to 13 inches. You're never going to see a
The
big
big
old-
ones.
Yeah.
Deep red color.
They're delicious. They're more delicious than Alaskan salmon in my opinion. But if we're talking seafood, Alaskan salmon, big fillets, I'm going to brine that sucker. And the brine is the most important part because it takes that fishiness that some people complain about away. I don't mind it. I don't mind fishy salmon. I love that flavor. Doesn't bother me one bit. I cook for picky people. So part of that is not force feeding what you like down their throat. It's creating a dish that they enjoy.
So what's your brine? So you soak it in a brine.
Equal parts salt. I use Celtic sea salt. It's got lots of minerals that are really good for us. It's got 89 minerals that iodized sea salt does not have in it, or iodized salt does not have in it. So I use Celtic sea salt, fresh cracked black pepper that I crack myself, so I know that it's actually black pepper, and brown sugar. Organic molasses-based brown sugar. I like to eat healthy. So
And you just mix that in
equal
water.
parts, 1 cup salt, 1 cup pepper, 1 cup sugar, or quarter cup, but equal parts on every spice. I bring that to a low boil, a simmer, and then I remove it from the heat, let it cool down to room temperature naturally, put my salmon in a dish, elevate it on like a rack so that I get my brine 360 degrees around it, so you're not laying it in a Tupperware container so one side doesn't get seasoning. And then I pour my brine into my brining fridge. I actually have a fridge in my basement just for brining and seasoning and curing meats.
Of course you do.
Yeah, of course. And I make my own venison hams. That takes
That's not a question.
That takes
that's
16
not a,
weeks. You
That's
have
not
to
a
have
question.
curing fridge.
That's not a question yet.
So I slide the salmon fillets in the brine into my seasoning fridge for 48 hours, 72 if I can get away with it. And the salt and the sugar helps to start curing that meat. Pull it out, set it on a drying rack, dab it dry with paper towels, and then I just throw it straight into the smoker on a cedar plank, as low as my smoker will go. Really what I'm looking for is flakiness. Like when the salmon starts to flake apart, I pull it.
So it's not even really a temperature.
Yeah.
You're going
It's
for more
not
of
a temperature,
feel.
just a visual. When I start seeing those muscles separate, we're done. You've emulsified the fat in between the muscles. The muscles start to separate. You're gonna have a nice juicy salmon. It's not like steak where it could be undercooked and people are like, "Oh, I don't like rare salmon." It's like it's just a texture thing. If you go past that, it's gonna get dry and stringy.
Now, do you put like lemon juice on it at that point, or you just add a little?
Not really.
No,
I
you just
usually serve it with like a homemade hollandaise. My wife loves hollandaise, and it's a nice citric acidity to the fatty, smoky, so it complements it well.
Well, there you have it. Your first Dear Daddy. Now you know a recommended recipe for steak, ribs, and salmon.
I don't believe any of the things he just said. I'm like Thomas. I'm going to need to see the holes in this meat before I.
I see.
I see what you did
I
there.
see.
I
See what you did.
I need to.
Every Friday night we cook out on my deck.
Doubting spice.
You show up with
Oh
the
my
protein,
goodness.
I will show you what we do with it.
That's actually hilarious. No, I have to taste it.
Yeah,
You have to make it
just
for
don't believe
me.
it.
I have to know. Yeah.
very clever.
Now, what's great about the Dear Daddy episodes is that these are random questions that he
Yeah,
has
I
no
had
idea.
no clue that was coming.
That was all off the top of, and there'll be more.